And hello fellow techers, Space Bandit here with another episode of World of Tanks, and today we are in the tier 10 German heavy tank E100. So E100, you don't see those tanks that much on the battlefield anymore. Even though this tank is still somewhat playable, it's not really that much relevant anymore in World of Tanks, especially at tier 10 with so many heavily armored tanks. E100 falls into this category of easily penned by pretty much anything. And the reason why is because of that turret armor. The turret armor of 252 millimeters at the front, the cheeks can be easily penetrated with anything over 280 millimeters. However, if you slope this turret or angle it at 45 degrees or something of that nature, between 40 and 45 degrees, you can still bounce a lot of shells because that armor becomes effective to over 310 millimeters. But regardless, even with sloping like that, the opposition's tier 10 heavy tanks and medium tanks can load their premium rounds and still easily pen you through the turret cheek, or if you over angle too much, they'll pen you in the side of the turret. No matter how you angle, if the player on the opposing team is knowledgeable, they'll pen you regardless, because they'll either shoot you in a turret cheek, even at the top angle of 310 millimeter of effective armor, they'll still penetrate you. If not that, they will penetrate you in the back portion of the side turret when you angled or over angled, because that effective armor is also about 310 millimeters. So regardless, so I would consider this tank more over meme. If you face tier 10 tank destroyers and heavy tanks, you're probably the one that's gonna get targeted first because of the very obvious weak spot, which is the turret. However, the 750 alpha of that gun on the top package of the 15 centimeter gun, it can really hurt. So if you ignore that alpha, be prepared to be annihilated. And that's the reason the E100 get focused first, mostly in the game. First of all, because they're easy to penetrate, and second, because of that big alpha. If you take that big alpha out of the game, then you don't have to deal with that. Now, I said that I would do a little comparison with E75. Actually, there's no point doing that comparison, but just for the stats sake, if you look at E75's turret armor, is 225 millimeters. And it's angled to the point that it's really hard to hit that front part of the turret, while E100's turret is like a one big flat piece of plank where you can easily hit, right? And it's at 250 millimeters. So that's that. Now, another problem with E100 is the low penetration of standard rounds. Standard rounds are about 246 millimeters of penetration, which is absolutely horrible for tier 10. And especially if you're fighting, tier 10 heavy tanks and tank destroyers, there's no way you can penetrate anything with that penetration value. E75 has basically the same base penetration at tier 9 at 246 millimeters. But then if you load premium rounds, which are heat rounds, you get 334 millimeters of penetration. That's why when you look at my loadout, you see only 2 standard shells that I have loaded, and mostly heat rounds and some HE rounds. Now, I might change that loadout a little bit to have a little bit more standard rounds. Standard rounds are AP rounds, but sometimes you need them in order to go through drive wheels of the vehicles, and that's what I found. If I have full heat round loadout, if I try to fire at the drive wheel, I usually draw a critical instead of a pen. And you should know that heat rounds have tough time penetrating tracks or spaced armor. So sometimes AP rounds are useful. So I think my optimal loadout would be probably something like 5 to 10 standard rounds and the rest heat and HE. But because lately I've been facing a lot of tough armor and brawling it out a lot up front, I've been using mostly heat rounds in my loadout. But going back to heat rounds, even with that penetration, you're gonna struggle in certain areas. For instance, penning object 279. I have heck of a time trying to pen object 279 with heat rounds from E100. E75's premium penetration is 311, but you get APCR rounds, which are, in my opinion, much better than heat. So the question becomes, why even bother playing E100 when you can just play E75 and do pretty much as well as you would in E100 at tier 9? And also facing tier 7s. And that's the reason probably a lot of people play E75, not too many people play E100s. I still see E100s on the battlefield, but not as much as I used to. I still like to roll in this tank every once in a while. Not very often, now because of this sharpshooter op, I get a chance to do that, so I decided to play a few games in E100. So I'll present 2 games to you overall. Today I'll show you 1 game, and then in a couple days I'll show you another game that I have in E100. They're pretty decent games. Unfortunately, this game here, it's a little bit patched up because I wasn't really recording. I was playing without my Elgato on, so the first part of this game will be from the replay system, although I'll show you where I'm penetrating the tanks that I'm shooting. And second part will be from the Xbox recorder, which the quality is not going to be the greatest, but at least you're going to see where I'm aiming. Anyway, let's jump into the gameplay and see what's transpired here. So we're on map steps with 3 RDs in play, and when there are so many RDs on an open map like this, I don't like to overexpose myself very early. So early in the game you saw me sniping this M48 Patton, and we hit him with a big alpha of over 800. Very lucky shot, to be honest, because the gun on the E100 is not very accurate, especially at long ranges like that. But by the time we got to the party, to the battle, it was a little bit late, so we actually chose a very nice position here at K3, which allowed us to stay RD safe, and at the same time the opposition wasn't paying attention to me because they were paying attention to everyone that was sitting at J3. So I could just poke out and take fully aimed shots at these guys, and I focused obviously the toughest armored vehicle, which was the Mouse. And actually in this game there were 2 Mouse tanks on the opposing team, which, yeah, it's extremely difficult dealing with so much armor, so I tried to focus him. But then once the opposition won the H2 area, I dropped back to position K3 or J4 so that I have RD support. And when these guys tried to go around and flank me, I was able to target just one, and with RD's help we were able to hold that position, so we cleaned up. Then we pushed the second Mouse, which then was taken out by RD, at which point we can progress further to take this Chinese tank destroyer out. Now the good part about this game was that our light tank actually took care of business very early. He went after the opposition's RD and he was able to take out 2 of them, which made this game a lot easier to win, to be honest. If that light tank didn't make that move, it would be a lot harder to win this game, but without RD support, the Reds were pretty much in a pretty losing situation with our RD still in play. So here we're just gonna go behind this hill here to go RD safe. We're gonna wait a few seconds, and after that the damage race will begin, because at this point in time there's just closing stages of the game. I'm currently sitting at 4.4k damage, which is, you know, if you get to 4.4k with this tank, especially after brawling the corner, that's actually not that bad, because in many cases you'd be out of the game before you can actually hit that number. So here we're not gonna get to this Bachat RD, and he's gonna get taken out eventually. So we're basically gonna cut across the field, trying to go to the other side, because it's quite likely that the platoon that's left over, they're on the other side of the map, probably on 9-0 lanes. So we're gonna cut across the field and hopefully we can catch some of them in the open field. I'm still left with half of my HP, which is great. I can still use some of this HP to engage the opposition. What's left is a couple of Yak Tigers, tier 9 Yak Tigers, and a tier 9 AMX 5120. Now this shot here, I rushed it a little bit. I probably should have aimed it a little bit longer, but I was under impression that this Yak Tiger was gonna go behind that rock. So I thought he was actually positioned behind the rock, not in front of the rock, and that's why I took the shot earlier. I should have probably waited and aimed better. Anyway, so I think they're heading down to that quadrant, to the H8K0 quadrant of the map. So we're gonna progress to that area, and since we still have artillery in play, and actually smart artillery that actually relocated and are able to support us, so we're gonna try to stay in a dip, then poke out and spot these guys. We started capping. It looks like the opposition is not capping. I was expecting them to cap and hopefully trying to win by capping, because they're really down in numbers. But cap in this area is in the open field, so you can easily decap here. Now take a look at this shot. This is crazy. I have to show you a replay of this. This is nuts. I don't know how these things happen in a game. You're gonna see it in a split second. I hit this tank in a corner of the turret, and I penned it right there. How is that even possible? I do not know. I mean, I'm just skimming the outside of the armor there. That shouldn't really be a pen. Anyway, that's just my opinion. You guys decide whether that should be a pen or not. There'll be another one that's kind of like iffy. And I'm like, what, really? And I'll show that to you as well a little bit later here. Anyway, we're gonna try to poke out here and take a shot at this Yak Tiger. I don't know where his friend is right now. On the left hand side, yes, he just showed up on the left hand side. So we're gonna try to aim up a shot here. We hit him on that flat spot in a superstructure, but he tracks me and pens me at the same time. So here you can see where I penned him right there. That's where you pen the Yak Tiger. And take a look at this. Right at the tip of the side of my skirt. How is that a freaking pen? Wargaming? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, guys. I don't know. But some of these things are questionable. And some of the shots that you take that go directly through the drive wheel and draw critical with AP or APCR rounds. How is that even possible? I do not understand those things. Anyway, this is not a rambling video, so we'll continue here. Anyway, this shot misses. But I don't want to overexpose myself. I could probably take one more hit from Yak Tiger, but I would rather not take it if I don't have to. And he's looking at me here, so we're going to drop back and re-angle our turret, as you can see, so we can bounce that shot. But Yak Tiger targets our Death Star and takes him out of the game. But by the time he pokes out again, we should be ready to shoot. And that's exactly the situation here. So we aim that shot up, we put a hit into him, and he gets taken out by our tank destroyer. So we complete this game. Anyway, very nice game for E100. Like I said, nowadays, in order to get good games in this tank, it's quite difficult with all that power in World of Tanks, especially at tier 10, and you being the first target most of the time. But still, you can pull out pretty good games every once in a while. So we managed to finish with Class 1 Mastery. We got High Caliber Medal, Confederate Medal, 6k damage with 2 kills, and 2k spotting damage, which brings the total to about 8k combined damage. With 2200 blocked, we managed to put up only 1440 base XP, but we still finished in first spot on the team. We fired 16 shells, we had 13 direct hits and 9 penetrations. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to go and check out Clone Guy 72 and Got a Dinghy, links in the description below. That's it for now. Until next time, happy tanking, Space Bandit checking out.